Ms. Kihoi.
Aloha, Mrs. Nagata.
Aloha.
So forgive me if I repeat a few questions. I'm trying my best to establish that a lot of these may have already been asked. So please, I appreciate your patience. Thank you. So just to be clear, you are the director of the Office of Mauna Kea Management.
Yes, correct.
And just to be clear, you were hired in 2012.
I was actually hired in 2000 as the associate director.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. You were hired as director in 2012.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, thank you. And prior to 2012, what line of work were you involved in? I'm sorry, I think you may have answered this already, and I'm just trying to remember. If you can refresh my memory on the position that you maintained.
Prior to 2012,
Prior to 2012.
I was the associate director for the Office of Mauna Kea Management. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay. And the Office of Mauna Kea Management is responsible for day-to-day management of the reserve as prescribed in the master plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is it also correct that the mission of your office is to achieve harmony, balance, and trust in the sustainable management and stewardship of the reserve?
That's our mission, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell me what types of community involvement or outreach have occurred since you have been there, since this is fundamental basis of your mission?
Wow, it's a lot. We've had numerous open houses on our CMP, the sub-plans, rules. We've gone out into the community. We've addressed several Hawaiian homestead associations regarding our rules. We've updated them on certain aspects of what we do in the office. We have gone out into schools to participate in their school programs. We help students. We've been asked by the schools to help out with some of their events to encourage their students to in science, in the areas of science and natural resources. We have a volunteer program where the community is actually oversubscribed. We have a lot of community members that like to come out and help us with our invasive species removal of fireweed. We have done, we have some of our program researchers, as part of their project, we ask them that they need to go out and do a community outreach. So they go onto the schools and work with the kids on some of the science projects they're doing. They even had a science project that they worked on together. We have, that comes what's on the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Were there any of those community involvement or outreach programs that you personally implemented yourself?
Some, yes.
Okay. Are you aware that the state has a fiduciary duty to protect and preserve customary and traditional rights?
I know they have the responsibility for, as stated in the Constitution, to protect traditional customary rights.
Thank you. So you are also aware that the customary and traditional practices are a constitutional right under the Hawaii State Constitution?
It is a constitutional right, as stated earlier, but it is also subject to reasonable regulation.
Okay. Are you also aware that astronomy is not a protected constitutional right?
No, it's not a constitutionally protected right.
Thank you. How familiar are you with the EIS of the TMT project?
How familiar?
Yes.
I reviewed it many years ago.
Okay. How familiar are you with the CDUA of the TMT project?
Oh, that was also reviewed several years ago.
Are you aware that James Hayes, the author and proposed land use expert of the permit application did not know the state has a constitutional mandate to protect customary and traditional rights?
I'm not aware of that. Yeah.
How many community members can you estimate have been involved with the activities on Mauna Kea since you have been hired?
How many? It's in the hundreds.
Okay, yeah. That's a good answer, thank you. Has there been any programming to give Native Hawaiians and the general public access to the telescope facilities?
There have been outreach efforts made by the observatories, individual observatories, including the Institute for Astronomy.
Okay, and is that an annual outreach, or is there something? How do they determine who is able to?
I don't know how they determine that.
Okay. Do you know how many times school-age children have had access to the telescope facilities?
There is a policy, what do you mean by school-age children?
General, maybe middle school, ages 12 to 18, maybe.
Mm-hmm. If they're younger than 16 years of age, I believe it's 16. The observatories have a policy for safety and health reasons to only allow those who are 18 over 16 years of age into the observatory facilities.
Okay. And to your best knowledge, is that access only provided or offered to students that are interested in a background in science or astronomy, or is it available to all?
I believe it's open to anyone who would like to. I mean, I'm not sure how they do, but I think it's available to those who are interested in science as well and interested in other subjects.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So as a director, and because the state has a fiduciary duty to Native Hawaiians and also to protect and preserve customary and traditional rights, who do you rely on for this type of advice within your staff?
Well, primarily we rely on the comprehensive management plan, because it is based, a lot of the rules and regulations and constitutional requirements are embedded in the comprehensive management plan.
Do you have anyone on your staff who is an expert in this area?
In what area?
Customary and traditional rights.
I wouldn't say we don't have an attorney on staff. Yeah.
Okay. How do you reconcile the needs of the University of Hawaii and Native Hawaiian rights to Mauna Kea?
I'm sorry, I don't.
How do you reconcile? How do you bring them together? The needs of UH and Native Hawaiian rights.
I guess I'm not quite clear on what it is that you're asking.
Just want if you mediate the two groups, not groups, but two interests.
I guess I still don't quite understand your question.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Do you consider Mauna Kea to be sacred?
No, I do not.
Do you consider any site in Hawaii to be sacred?
No, I do not.
Are you aware that many Native Hawaiians, like myself, consider Mauna Kea to be sacred land?
I'm aware that's. Yeah.
Objection. Calling for speculation by this witness. Overruled. You began to answer. Please complete your answer.
Sorry. I am aware that there are some Native Hawaiians who feel the mountain is sacred, as I am also aware that some Native Hawaiians do not feel Mauna Kea is sacred.
Okay. Are you aware that many Native Hawaiians like myself assert that we will be injured if the TMT is built?
I'm not sure what you mean by injured.
Injured
Physically?
physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually.
Objection, calling for legal conclusion.
I don't see how that's illegal.
Overruled. Please answer.
Okay. I am somewhat aware that some individuals have indicated that they would be somewhat injured.
Okay, thank you. In your testimony on page 2, you stated there is a new advisory board made up of your office, a Native Hawaiian Advisory Council, and the Mauna Kea Management Board. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, was it again?
Sorry. In your testimony on page 2, you stated that there is a new advisory board made up of your office, a Native Hawaiian Advisory Council, and the Mauna Kea Management Board. Is that correct?
Let's see.
Specifically, what are you referring to in her testimony?
An advisory board.
Is that the last paragraph?
Sorry, I think, yes.
It's a new on-island community-based management entity. Is that what you're referring to, or something else?
Would object. It's misstating the testimony. It was the reference to new is at the time of the adoption of the master plan.
Yeah, yeah. Would you mind repeating that, please?
Objection that it's misstating the direct written testimony. The term new, the adjective new, is a reference, I believe, to the time at which the master plan was approved or adopted.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Okay. So, okay. I'm going to come back to that one. Sorry. I think I may have gotten the wrong number on that. Actually, I have a lot of questions on that. I'm sorry. Can I? Okay. Sorry, I think I got some of my pages. I'm going to come back to that after, and as soon as I finish this. Okay. Are you aware that tens of thousands of Native Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians are in opposition of the TMT project?
Objection, argument.
Sustained.
Okay. To your best knowledge, who has the final say on the recommendations for the EIS of this project?
The final say of the recommendations?
Yes.
I don't know if an EIS makes recommendations. And what kind of recommendations?
How would I say this? The final conclusion. Who concludes the reports and any recommendations?
Big and ambiguous as to which EIS.
Could you
The
rephrase?
FEIS of the TMT project.
And I'm not quite sure what your question is, so if you don't mind rephrasing.
Okay. I'm not too sure how I would rephrase that. Maybe I'll come back to that one as well. Okay. Were you present for any of the arrests arrest last year on Mauna Kea opposing the TMT project?
I was on the mountain at the time, yes.
Were you present for the arrest of the 7 Native Hawaiian women in prayer on September 9th, 2015?
I was not.
Did you or your office play any role in those arrests? Did you have any role in those arrests?
No, we did not.
So any of you or your staff that were present, it was to observe?
Correct.
Did you, as director of the Office of Mauna Kea Management, the culture advisor, or any staff member ever attempt to address the concerns of those who were arrested?
There was a meeting with some individuals who were part of the protest. We had a meeting. They had a concern, and we discussed it, yes.
Can you expand a little on what was discussed?
They had come to the office because of with the disappearance of the ahu that was on the side of the road.
But was there any discussions of the arrests that took place? I believe my question was, did you, as a director of OMKM, the culture advisor of OMKM, or any staff member ever attempt to address the concerns of those arrested?
No.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't know.
Were you involved in any of the mitigation measures noted in the FEIS?
Involved in the mitigation measures? In what way?
In the community outreach, community benefits package?
We reviewed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a role in any of the mitigation?
We reviewed the mitigation measures that were provided discussed in the EIS.
Was there ever any mitigation efforts extended to the 57 protectors arrested on Mauna Kea last year?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Were there ever any mitigation efforts extended to any of the 57 protectors arrested on Mauna Kea last year?
Objection, more argument.
I don't understand the question.
I'm just trying to ask if there was ever any mitigation efforts, if they ever tried to resolve any of the concerns.
Was this office involved with that? Is that what you're asking her?
Yes.
Okay, can you ask her then? Did OMKM or herself?
Did OMKM ever make an effort to mitigate or extend any mitigation efforts to the 57 protectors arrested on Mauna Kea last year?
This is where I'm having a problem, because when you say mitigation efforts, that's a different, I think, meaning than the mitigation we've been talking about with the other reports, and that's why I'm confused.
Okay, I understand.
So if you could change that word to something more accurate.
Did the Office of Mauna Kea Management ever address the concerns of the 57 protectors arrested on Mauna Kea last year?
No, we did not.
I think I'm going to end here.